Fair dealing is an important exception and user right in the Canadian Copyright Act that allows the reproduction of copyright-protected content without the permission of the copyright holder when it is used for one of the following purposes: research, private study, criticism, review, news reporting, education, satire, or parody. In a typical day, a uOttawa student will rely on fair dealing frequently. As a student, you usually have access to copyright protection for works you create. Students who copy or communicate copyright-protected works should obtain the permission of the copyright owner, unless their use of these works falls within one of the exceptions in the Copyright Act, such as fair dealing.
Hi, my name is Akila. I'm a sociology student at uOttawa.
For her sociology class, Akila borrows a book that her professor placed on course reserve at the library and scans one chapter to read on her tablet.
I can create a copy of that one chapter from a published book for research or private study, an amount and purposes considered fair under the uOttawa Fair Dealing Guidelines.
In her paper on violence in video games, Akila uses screenshots from online games to illustrate her points.
Fair dealing makes it possible for me to incorporate these images because I am reviewing and critiquing them.
Akila is using information and quotes from public pages on Facebook and Twitter for a piece she is contributing to the student newspaper on rising tuition fees.
Under fair dealing, I can use this information in my article for news reporting as long as I also mention the source and the author.
At home, Akila logs into the university's course management system to read the news article her professor posted for an assignment in her international development class.
My professor was allowed to upload that article to the course management system because one article from one newspaper issue is considered a fair amount under the uOttawa Fair Dealing Guidelines. He used that article for educational purposes, which is one of the purposes for which fair dealing is allowed.
For her visual arts class, Akila is adding a picture of a recent artistic work in her presentation on abstract expressionism. She copied the image from the collections section of the National Art Gallery of Canada website.
Students can use copyright-protected material, such as images, video, music, and advertisements for academic purposes in the same way as books, journals, and other materials. This material, including visual art, can generally be included in assignments and class presentations, as long as it falls under the fair dealing exception or an educational exception to copyright. However, if you would like to publish, distribute, or exhibit your assignment or presentation in a public forum or gallery, you may need permission from the copyright holder.
For a theater class, Akila performs a popular play on campus with the rest of her group.
Students can perform copyright-protected works in the classroom. They can also perform a copyright-protected work publicly, as long as it is performed on campus, for a student-instructor majority audience, and not for profit. You should not record such performances other than for evaluation purposes, and with the permission of the performers. And you cannot distribute, for example, on YouTube, or sell any recordings of the performance. These are all examples of how the fair dealing exception helps an undergraduate student like you every day. I'm sure you can find examples of how you use the fair dealing exception in your everyday life, whether you're in the campus library, at home, or in class. If you have questions about copyright or the fair dealing exception, you can visit the uOttawa Copyright Office website at www.copyright.uottawa.ca.